Hello, this is the world famous Cheeseburger, and you are drinking at Moe's.
This is Drinkin at Moe's, where we talk about the pros of pro wrestling in the Midwest while sipping on some brews with blessed beers and wrestling. That's my scene. Death matches and lucha libre, it's also mean. I'm a straight up smart goofball, not no kiss ass. I stand tall when it comes to wrestling. I'm the king. I know every move, every fling. Get ready for a wild time with Drinkin at Moe's, where we don't quit. Drinkin at Moe's, that's where it's at, like a power bomb. We hit hard, never flat. Fucking right, we're living the dream. Talking about wrestling, always a scream.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' at Moe's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code drinkinatmos, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome Drinkin' at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, because YouTube's algorithm continues to be a pain in the ass. Where most places you can find the audio podcast too. Today, I'm excited. I'm blessed to have with me the world famous Cheeseburger. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Mo.
Oh, it's a pleasure. You were a pleasure to work with when you were here making your Nebraska debut. And I told you this after the Fight Against Suicide show, that being my commentary debut, and getting to call you as one half of my first main event, I was like, whoa.
That was a fun day. That was a very fun day. Interesting setting, interesting day. And congratulations on making your commentary debut. Glad to be a little part of it.
Oh yeah. And we already got a show planned for the day before Veterans Day, and putting feelers out there other places, so We'll see. Although I'll probably have to be sparingly with if I were to travel places, because my wife and I are expecting, and they're inducing her right after Christmas.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah,
on that as well.
Thank you. So first thing I like to lead off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you finally deciding to make that leap into the business?
My earliest memory of wrestling was going over to my dad's house when I was a kid and watching it, basically watching with him. My earliest memories were like watching around I would say early 2000, 2001, like right around when SmackDown started. Like that's like kind of like burned into my mind. Like, and I was hooked like ever since then. And that was just something we bonded over, and something that really got me interested in just like the characters and the stories, everything. And from then on, it was just watching as much as I could. I had this period where I fell out of wrestling for a bit. And I feel like everyone kind of does it, especially when you're like young. Yeah, you start to kind of like when I got into high school, I was like, oh, wrestling's not cool anymore. Like I'm getting older, like I shouldn't watch wrestling. And none of my friends watch wrestling, so I just fell out of it. And then around like late 2009, early 2010, I got back into it. And I fell back in love with it. I called on TV, like called the last Raw of 2009, and I was like, well, I haven't watched wrestling in like a couple of years. Like, this is amazing. Like, why haven't I been watching this entire time? And it was just falling in love with it all over again. And I remember being 17 at the time, still in high school, and trying to decide what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I saw an ad for the Ring of Honor school, and I had no concept of how people became wrestlers, and I didn't even know there was schools that people could just go to learn this and everything. And the school was like 15 minutes from my house, and I went, sent them a message. I went to check out the school, and that October of that fall of that 2010, I decided to sign up.
Oh man, yeah, that Ring of Honor dojo, man, they had the reputation for churning out some great talent, and I've been blessed to have a handful of people that have gone through Ring of Honor on the podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
People that were a part of the first ever show, like the SATs. I had them.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of my first like out of state episodes, so that was something wild.
Oh, okay. Like first, like people from the East Coast or something.
Oh yeah, and because what had happened was it was right around the time of their series of matches with the Hardys and the Briscoes, and all of a sudden they like liked something of mine on Twitter. I'm like, light bulb, and was like, you know what, this might be a long shot, but here,
just reach out.
Yep. And then, oh yeah, and then, oh god, who? Well, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention that right around the time of the sale from Sinclair to Tony Khan, like right before I actually confirmed, and then it happened after, but with Kerry Silken, had him, and then one that it pops up in my head because I ended up getting recognition from somebody that I never thought in a million years, but I had Dutch on.
Oh, okay.
And not realizing that he was friends with Bray Wyatt.
Okay.
And then until like Bray Wyatt literally liked some of my stuff for that episode. And I remember the first one, like I didn't recognize the little Twitter icon, the picture. So I was like, okay, I'll check it here in a minute. I about dropped my damn phone because I was like, holy fuck. And then, getting to have you on, I've had, Ring of Honor has had a bit of a, bleeding into with, Tony Khan and the relationship with New Japan that's kind of bled over. Clark Connors had hit. That was a fun one. That was right around my 100th episode. So that was interesting. But yeah, I've been a big fan of Ring of Honor, New Japan even, and just the talent that they churned out of there from that school is like, you look around and they're like, who's who in the business.
Yeah, it's been there's a lot of history with the Ring of Honor dojo. A lot of great people have come through there. People like Rhett Titus have come through there. The Bravado Brothers, one of which is now Andre Chase in NXT. We've done people back in the day like Bobby Dempsey, Pelly Primo, Grizzly Redwood, Shane Hagedorn, like a ton of like awesome people, and a lot of people that have helped me a ton when I was coming into the dojo, whether it be on the road or in the locker rooms, things like that. Like a lot of the older students like helped me, help keep me on the right path. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And another thing I like to talk about, because I love hearing about like origin stories about how people came up with their in-ring personas. Like, I've been a fan of hearing about that stuff since I think watching a Stone Cold DVD when he was talking about how the Stone Cold character came about. How did the Cheeseburger persona kind of get out there?
So it started as a nickname at the dojo. Like when I started training, a lot of the students had nicknames, and my first couple of weeks there, I was just learning the basics, things like that, doing the workouts. And my first road trip, I met Rhett Titus, and I was like super skinny at the time, like 17 years old, like maybe like 110, 115 pounds. When I started wrestling training, and Rhett Titus, the first time he saw me, he was like, man, this kid needs to eat a cheeseburger. And all the other students like they popped and they just started like calling me Cheeseburger as like a joke, and it became a thing just people in the locker room knew me as. And I didn't originally wrestle as Cheeseburger. I originally wrestled under a mask. I wanted to be a mask wrestler. All my favorite wrestlers were mask wrestlers. So my unofficial kind of debut for Ring of Honor was January 2013. And it was a segment in Baltimore with Charlie House, who was the big heel at the time. He was doing a promo segment, and I was going to come in and as the ringside student, like cleaning up the trash and stuff in the rings that fans were throwing at him. He was going to yell at me and just beat me up. So he gets on the mic and we're doing the segment, and just completely on the fly, he, as just like a joke because people knew me as this in the locker room, he said, "Oh, kid, you need to eat a cheeseburger, so I'm going to call you Cheeseburger." And then he challenged me to a match, and we did the crowd like were like hyped me up and started chanting Cheeseburger, like 600, 700 people in the Du Burns Arena in Baltimore. And Charlie beat me up, and that was it. And when I got to the back, like everyone was like, "Hey man, you got my have something to this Cheeseburger thing." And I was like, "Oh man, like I don't want to be called." I really didn't want my wrestling name to be Cheeseburger, but eventually I grew to love it. But yeah, it's just something that happened organically. Like the fans latched onto it, and yeah, people really like it.
Oh yeah, there is sometimes the funniest ways some of those things come about. Like hell, I know with my nickname from the Navy, Big Mo, that was just kind of okay. They all of a sudden one day, boom, one person started calling me it, and then boom,
it just goes. Things just kind of progress from there.
Yep. And one thing that I've enjoyed hearing about when it comes to Ring of Honor is hearing about the locker room atmosphere, because it always seemed like a great atmosphere from what everybody's been telling me. What was it like for you there? Because I mean, looking into the business today, looking at the influence that Ring of Honor has had, I mean, just look, the WWE with Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, El Generico, Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, like they're some of the big stages right now.
Yeah, the locker room, like, and it's not just like kind of like a thing of me saying this, but I've heard so many people say like there is nothing like the ROH locker room. Like people that have been around the world, people that have been like WWE, like TNA, like AEW, like whatever it may be, like, but so many people have just said like the Ring of Honor locker room was just like so special. And I think because like we weren't as big of a company and we didn't run as big of, like our arenas weren't as big, it allowed us to be a little more of a tight knit like locker room because we all shared more of the same space. Whereas like again, it's not like a bad or like good or bad thing. It's just kind of what it is. But as you grow as a company, you do big arenas. There's like different sections of the arenas. Like maybe some people get their own locker rooms. Maybe some people, or maybe it's like, hey, instead of just like one giant like men's locker room, there's like 3 separate men's locker rooms. So you have people in this one, people in that one, people in that one. So you don't really like have that camaraderie and that everyone kind of finds their people they gravitate towards. Whereas Ring of Honor, it would usually it would just be like a big open space that we would all kind of like share. So I think that allowed us to be a little bit more kind of tight knit, and we saw each other often enough where I think it wasn't like annoying, but it was like for instance, like if you're seeing someone like every week, it just kind of like becomes like Groundhog Day where you just see someone like, oh hey, like what's up? Whereas we would see each other like maybe like we're a super busy month, maybe like we have like 4 or 5 shows a month on a super busy one, maybe 6. But usually it'd be like on average like 2 to 4 shows a month. So you see someone one week and then a week would pass, you wouldn't see them, and another week would pass. So it's kind of like a little bit fresher. So I feel like that kind of contributes to that as well. But it was just like the locker room was like so like hungry, and everyone wanted to just like push each other to be better. And it was, I feel like people who were, if there were ever like any issues in the locker room, those people just naturally kind of weeded themselves out. And we had such a really good tight knit locker room. That's the thing I miss most about Ring of Honor, is just like seeing those people that like I enjoyed being around like so often, getting to see them a couple of times a month. And like literally I like grew up from a teenager at 17 years old until I was about 30 when the company was sold. And I got to see like so many people come in and out of that locker room. I got to see that the company be sold to Sinclair, and that progression, seeing us grow every year, seeing us start to work with New Japan, with CMLO, with European companies, things like that. and just from the eyes of like a teenager to the eyes of an adult, it's crazy to think that like I was like basically like raised in the Ring of Honor locker room essentially.
You know what? Yeah, in a way, you kind of were, and you know, Ring of Honor had that unique ability. You know, when people talk about AEW today with the Forbidden Door, Ring of Honor was really one of the first companies with a national scale that really got those working relationships going on a big level. Like, yeah, WCW had it, but it wasn't like after a while it wasn't as heavily featured.
Mm-hmm.
Ring of Honor, it was like consistent. They had tours based around it. You'd go over to the UK, you'd have CMLL, New Japan, like War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Was a big one. What were some of your memories, working with some like pretty diverse group of people when you bring in, New Japan, CMLL, because, totally different styles between the two. Mm-hmm. So like you're getting a very diverse group of styles that you're able to mix it up with.
Yeah, it was great. My goal was always to be like a very world traveled wrestler and be able to work with anyone of any style, and having those opportunities to work with talent that came in from whether it be Mexico or like Japan or the UK or Australia or wherever it may be was awesome. And it just helped me grow as a performer, help all of us grow as a performer. Like I was lucky enough to work with like some of the New Japan talent. Like I got to work with Jushin Thunder Liger a lot. Like we got to tag a bit. It was my mentor and like my idol and my hero basically. And getting to work with him a lot like helped me a ton. I got to work with Kushida a lot. We got to tag a bit. He was awesome. We got to work with people like Gedo and like Toru Yano. And then in CMLL, they brought in Okumura and El Felino, who's an absolute legend, and getting to work with someone of that caliber and do some lucha and show that to work with luchadors as well was fantastic. So yeah, it was tremendous, and I really love the challenge of being able to work with and adapt to anyone of any style. And I think that helped me when I would go to places like Japan and when I would go to Mexico and just being ready for those scenarios and those situations.
Oh, most definitely. It gives you that little bit more of a longevity than if you just stick with the one sort of style. Now, I mean, I do have some stuff I wanted to talk about with New Japan, but before that, for everybody, I think it's a period of time we'd all like to forget ever happened. But during the pandemic, Ring of Honor had kind of a unique position where a lot of people were being let go just like all over the place. Ring of Honor was still paying and like a lot of other places doing those empty arena shows. And well, I guess you can never really have an empty arena match anymore and have it be something special. It's like, yeah, we had that for like 2 years. But what was it like during that time frame for you?
So I actually enjoyed the COVID period. Not the COVID period, but like the quarantine bubble period for Ring of Honor, not the actual way the world was. Because like it was just like super unique, and it allowed me to do something different while having to worry about the fan reaction. Just kind of get comfortable trying different things without the worry of like, okay, this isn't going to work. Like for people that don't know, like the way it worked was we were doing tapings in Baltimore during during COVID. We got the approval from the Baltimore Athletic Commission to we would stay in the hotel for basically like a week and film shows. So we would do Ring of Honor took a ton of precaution to make sure his tapings went off as good as possible. We had to take 2 to 3 COVID tests, like one before we got in there, one when we got there, and one before we left. We all had our separate hotel rooms. We stayed there for like a week. We weren't allowed to leave the hotel like at all, except to go to the dojo to film our promos or to go to the arena to wrestle. You can get like approval to go to like the gym, but That was kind of like the gym at the hotel, but that's kind of like kind of it. And they would give you like a per diem to get food and stuff, so you get delivery, things like that. And you would just live there for like a week, and we would do all our promos. We would film several weeks of TV. We would usually do like 2 different sessions. They would split the locker room up into like a morning session, like afternoon section. Everyone would have kind of a little separate section in the locker room. So it was kind of nice, but we all got kind of these like little like private like locker rooms, and everything. And I enjoyed kind of my alone time, so I was fine just spending a week in the hotel room, just chilling and like playing my Xbox or reading or watching TV or whatever like that. So it was no problem for me. Some people didn't like it, but I enjoyed it. What I really liked about the tapings though was being able to do that pure wrestling style and also try different ways of structuring matches without having to worry about the fan reaction. I think that like allowed me to really get my creativity going with matches of how to make this interesting for people watching at home, how to do things with the cameras, all that. And sometimes you're deterred from trying things in a ring because you're like, all right, well, this is the first time trying this sequence or trying this move or whatever. So if it doesn't get the reaction I'm looking for, then that's just like as a performer, that's like kind of a mental game you have to play with yourself. But not having to worry about the reactions, I was able to just try stuff and see how things flowed and find different unique ways of getting into things. And I really love that because I got to do a lot of the pure wrestling stuff during the COVID bubble. And that was like my favorite style. And like that was why I was like, okay, I can really show people like what I can do as a wrestler. And that was when I transitioned from just being Cheeseburger the character to being world famous CB like the wrestler. And then after Ring of Honor got sold, I was able to go back to Cheeseburger and kind of combine the two.
Oh yeah, and I had a bit of luck with finding the Ring of Honor program here in Nebraska because it was before Sinclair was kind of like okay. It wasn't that easy to find it, but then it ended up being a CW channel that ended up carrying it here. Hell, CW running wrestling stuff now, but I just remember I was watching a bunch and getting to see you doing the pure style, and hell, for guys like me, the high flying and all that, it's cool to watch, but I love that technical, no nonsense, just of the pure style, because you don't see that too much. Like I get the appeal of everywhere wanting to do the flashy stuff. It's what gets eyes drawn to your product. But for me, I was raised in the 80s with seeing guys like Bruiser Brody and all that, which I get a kick out of talking about this. When I first, growing up, that dude scared the shit out of me. And then,
he's terrifying.
Going back and watching it now, I'm like, dude, love it. So that's, he obviously had a bit of a hard-hitting style, and that's always been what I kind of gravitated towards. And, you get that no nonsense, I loved it with the rule about you only get so many rope breaks, and then and then it's unique. Like doesn't matter after that. You can just like Tajiri's move that he had with the spider, the tarantula, or whatever it was called, is like you could do that in the pure rules match after that rope breaking. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
So going into, with New Japan, very unique experience there, obviously different culture, but there's, a reason why the term, the Japanese strong style was coined, because, man, those guys don't hold back. Like, I remember one of the first New Japan shows I ever watched over here, somebody throws a headbutt, they make it look, real. I hate the term fake, but, over there, you literally hear the bone on bone smack. And like, I remember it was Tomohiro Ishii, actually, the first one I heard that. I'm like, okay, I got a headache now. What was your experience like, first going over there? Because I can imagine the first trip in particular can be kind of like eye-opening, eye-widening thing.
I always loved like the Japanese wrestling, the Japanese style. Like I remember seeing like the Super J Cup and being like hooked, and seeing people like Jushin Liger and like Great Muda and like Ultimate Dragon, like Great Sasuke, like all these awesome like wrestlers with these like flashy characters and their insane styles, and just like the pageantry combined with like the awesome wrestling. And then getting into things like All Japan and seeing the Four Pillars, seeing Misawa, Kobashi, Taue, and Kawada, and then Akiyama and people like that, and just like really getting like hooked on like everything and trying to watch as much Japanese wrestling as I could. And then I remember when I first, like, one of my earliest goals in wrestling was to like just go to Japan in like any capacity, like even just to go to visit. But I just always like had a love of that style and like those characters and things like that. And when I finally got to go to Japan, the first time I went was in 2016. Not just to go to Japan, but to debut in the Tokyo Dome in the New Japan Rumble as a surprise. I was like, wow, like I could not, when I got the call, I could not like believe it. And then I remember literally getting off the plane and it's not not believing it until we actually like like a 16-hour flight, just not believing I'm actually going to Japan until I actually landed there. And I remember getting off and just like wanting to like get down and kiss the ground, because like I was so happy that I finally like got there. And to not just go there once, but I got to go there 5 times, from 2016 to 2019, and it was just absolutely incredible. And I miss it so much. And that's one of my biggest goals, to get to go back to Japan and get to relive that all over again.
Well, that would be amazing. I mean, hell, you got the nod from Japanese, not just Japanese wrestling legend, but just pro wrestling in general legend in Jushin Thunder Liger. Like, I remember watching him and, the old WCW Nitro days, and then, seeing him more during, New Japan. What was it like for you? Because, you mentioned, him being, a mentor and idol. Sometimes when, people talk about meeting their heroes, it's like, you don't want to meet your heroes because, might be disappointed, blah, blah, blah. What was it like for you there? Because, I mean, myself, I've met a few of my idols, and I mean, I haven't been disappointed once.
It was incredible. Like meeting Jushin Liger was like, just, I was like, remember just being starstruck, and like just finally being him. He's such a nice guy. He's incredible. He's been a tremendous mentor to me. He's helped me a ton in wrestling. Taught me the Shote Palm Strike, which is my big finishing move, which I used to beat the Steve with. And he has been getting to tag with him, getting to pick his brain, and getting to just learn from him. And not Liger was tremendous. Kushida was awesome. Like I saw Kushida not too long ago, and he still is just one of the sweetest people and gives me a ton of advice. And he was fantastic to get to work with. People like Gedo and Jado as well, like they were awesome. And just a lot of the people in New Japan locker room have been incredible, and like they're so giving and so what's the word I'm looking for? Just like they want to help make wrestling better. And like someone like Liger is like if I ever get to legend status, that is like the status, that is the type of legend I want to be. Like that person that helps the younger generation and is willing to, assist anyone that's looking for help.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely nice when you reach that status and you see those guys that are willing to help those coming back up, because some of the old school mentality of not wanting to give up your spot, and that mentality of hell, I remember the old WCW stuff with like the NWO and that, how a lot of those older guys at least got accused of not wanting to give up their spot.
Yes.
So to have people like that will help, coming up, always great to have. And you mentioned Tokyo Dome, one of the world's most famous arenas, and well, you've also been in, it's called the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. We talked about the New Japan Ring of Honor working relationship. That was on full display during that show. It was like the G1 Supercard. Right?
Yep.
What was that show like for you? Because like before that, there wasn't really non-WWE wrestling that went on in that building.
No, I think Ring of Honor and the new Ring of Honor New Japan show is the first non-WWE show there in like decades. I want to say I might have that wrong, but I believe so. I believe for a long time it was a thing where like no company could run there, and then once that deal fell through, that was when Ring of Honor was able to go in there and start the Supercard. I remember there was a little bit of a legal thing where I think WWE were trying to kind of get those rights back and like block the show or something like that, and they ended up kind of like hashing that out. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, that was like the first show in like decades, that like non-WWE show, and then that was an incredible show. The funny part is I had never been to Madison Square Garden, not even for like to see like a Knicks game or to see like a show or anything. So I was always curious. Like in my head, I kind of like when I first walked into the Tokyo Dome, which is like a baseball stadium, so it's like different. But I remember thinking like, oh my god, this is like gigantic. And I remember when I walked to MSG, I was actually surprised. Like it wasn't as big as I pictured it in my head. But it was like it went more like up instead of like out. So that was the thing that surprised me most. I was like, this isn't like as like wide as I expected. It's actually like kind of like compact. Granted, it's an older arena, so and it's for basketball, But I was like that surprised me the most, and just like you could see just all the history, like just backstage, like walking through the building, and it was like tremendous, and get like the energy of that show was absolutely insane. And like I ended up doing the Rumble on that Supercard show. They had like so many surprise guests in there. Like they had Haku come out, and like Liger was in there, and Great Muta. And I remember they had the Great Muta and Liger like famous like classic showdown like near the end of the match. And I remember getting eliminated, and all of us like were running to the back as fast. Everyone that got eliminated, we're going to the back as fast as possible, get to the monitor. We're like, we gotta see this. Like this is crazy.
oh yeah, that was something. And yeah, just like I wasn't there in person, but I remember watching that show, and oh my god, you could sense just this killer energy just through the screen. It was something special. And oh god, okay, lost track for a second. Okay, I got it. So New Japan in and of itself, they've gone under a bit of a change as of late. Yeah, talent leaving, which talent goes all over the place. But now they're helmed by another legend in Tanahashi.
Yes.
Which, I mean, there's a reason they call him the Ace.
Absolutely.
Have you been contacted about going over there through being a part of a show under his leadership, or has that not happened just yet?
I worked with New Japan last year. They had me in for the what was the name? The All-Star Juniors Festival.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was like a show celebrating like junior heavyweight wrestling. They did a similar show earlier that year in Japan in Korakuen Hall, I believe, which was headed up by Hiromu Takahashi. And then Hiromu brought the concept to America, and they decided to do a like basically best of the best for junior heavyweight wrestlers, like the same concept in America. So that was the first time I had been to New Japan since 2019. So that was tremendous, and getting to be back in there and getting to step back into a New Japan ring and do that. So That was last year, so I'm hoping to go back over at some point, whether it be for New Japan or whether it be for another company. But yeah, happy to work back with them again. Like I was super when I got the call, I was very honored and very surprised, and I was like, all right, let's go back at it.
All right. And when I was putting my notes together, I guess I was watching this particular match for a different promotion, but I'm like, I guess with the amount of wrestling I watched, my memory just got fuzzy, and I guess I forgot that you were even in this match. GCW, the clusterfuck.
Yes, yes.
That I remember watching, and yeah, the way, for the lack of a better way to describe it, it did seem kind of like a clusterfuck, but it was kind of an organized one.
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat. But it was like I just remember some of the people that I do remember seeing in there. Like I think it was this one, but where Sean Ross Sapp came out and Denise Salcedo hit him in the balls. Was that a different one?
The one that I did this year. That was, I believe, the last year.
Okay.
Or have I only done one cluster? No, yeah, I've only done the one. I only did the one this year in Philadelphia.
Okay.
This one had it had some very like interesting guests. Like Aja Kong was in there.
Oh yeah.
Who else? Chitan, like the big like mascot in Japan, was in there. God, there was a bunch of people in that one. I'm trying to remember who else was there. Because also there was like so many people. There was like I think that was the biggest one they ever did. There was like 90 people in there. So I remember thinking like I think I was like number like 37. So I was like kind of like watching the first half, but also kind of not. God, who else was there? There's a bunch. I gotta look it up now.
Because I remember watching
one. I'm gonna look this up while we're on.
I think it was well, excuse me. The arena was smaller, so I guess that kind of added to the clusterfuck.
Oh, yeah, Aja Kong was in it. Oh, Microman, I love Microman. He was in there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it had the kaiju big battle people like Dr. Q. He was in there. Frank the Clown was in that one. I forgot about that.
Oh man, I got
Tommy Dreamer. Tommy Dreamer was in it.
Sweet.
Nick Gage and Microman, I think, came down to them too. Justin Credible was in there. There's a lot of like special guests in there. There was like it's like so many people. I didn't realize like half of them were in the same match I was in.
Yeah, that. Well, hell, battle royals in and of itself can be kind of like easy to forget after a while. Oh, that person was in there with me.
Yes. Yep.
Clusterfuck. I haven't been able to ask too many people, but I love hearing about it that, we're involved in it because, watching it's one thing, but getting to be in there for it, whole nother deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like, it can be hectic. It can be very, very hectic.
Oh, I can imagine. And you brought up Frank the Clown. I got to be involved in a rib on it.
Oh, okay.
Where my podcast was invited down to Warrior Wrestling when they made a stop in St. Louis. And we were, everybody was getting set up and they're trying to figure out where to put Frank the Clown at. And I remembered there was this kind of like alcove cutout area in the wall that was like right off to my right.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a trash can in there. So I was like, oh, I'll take care of it. And I put the name thing right in front of the trash can.
Oh.
I remember him coming in and looking around like, oh, y'all got jokes, do you?
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I had a good time with that. But yeah, I give Frank the Clown shit, but that's the thing when it comes to, heels. When you want that reaction where people want to pay their money to come see you get your ass kicked.
Absolutely.
And he had that ability to just make people want to do that so damn easily.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Like, he is tremendous at generating heat.
Oh, most definitely. Now, okay, I got two categories here. One's a bit of a name game where I name off some people. You give me quick thoughts on them. And so each of these guys, well, 3 out of the 4 that I have here have also been on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And, they also have ties to Ring of Honor and, some New Japan too. So the first 3 have all actually also been on the show. First one, Beer City Bruiser.
Oh, I love Bruiser. Yeah, I worked with Bruiser a ton of times. Like, he's one of my God. We've had so many different matches, like singles, like tags, like we wrestled like all over the country. We wrestled on the Jericho cruise. Like, he was my first match on the Jericho cruise. Wrestled on a cruise ship, which is insane to think about. But yeah, I love Bruiser. He's always a tremendous opponent. Like, so easy to work with, and we had like really good chemistry.
All right. Next one, the one that got me recognition from Bray Wyatt, Dutch.
Oh, Dutch is cool. I actually haven't wrestled Dutch, but yeah, he's an awesome guy, and I love whenever I get to see him and Vincent do their thing on TV. Like, I really enjoy the Righteous and like the concept of everything they put together. But yeah, haven't got to work with Dutch, but great dude.
Oh yeah, he was a pleasure to have on, and I didn't get to meet him in person, but he brought up Vince, and I have got to meet him at Sammy Callahan's promotion, Revolver.
Oh yes,
which I got to meet him there. I got to Kushida. I got to meet him there. One of my autographed figures up there is actually of one of his.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, that was rather fun. All right, next person, guy doing a lot of good stuff with New Japan right now, Clark Connors.
Oh yeah, I've worked with Clark once, I believe. No, 2 times. I've worked with Clark twice, but both of the times were when he was still a young lion in the dojo system. Yeah, Clark's a great dude. Like, he's awesome. I remember we were hanging at GCWLA, and he we're chilling out, gave me a Smirnoff, hit the cheers, and we were off to the races there. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah,
he's doing really good work in New Japan right now.
Oh yeah, believe he's still part of the Bullet Club there, and New Japan Junior Heavyweight Tag Champ. At least he was at one point.
I believe he still is. He's still tag champs with Drilla Maloney as part of the War Dogs.
Oh yeah, that just the name of that. Me being a military veteran kind of just gets me like, ooh, I love the name. All right, next up, we unfortunately ended up losing one half, but hey, rest in peace to him. But his brother's going strong, the Briscoe Brothers.
Yeah, love the Briscoes. Love Jay, love Mark. 2 of like the first like veterans that really like took me under their wing and like helped me out. 2 of the first guys I met going into the Ring of Honor locker room, and I remember being like so like intimidated to meet both of them. So scared because they just like look like scary, terrifying dudes. They're the absolute like sweetest guys, and a lot of memories with those guys. A lot of just fun times on the road and after shows and in Japan. They were on my first trip to Japan as well, and just like man, I love both of those guys.
Oh yeah, I love getting to watch those guys, and they kind of they fit my style of wrestling that I gravitate towards. I gravitate towards a lot of those intense personas, and Briscoe Brothers were known to be quite intense, and intense, but they also knew how to entertain a damn crowd.
Oh yeah. I always say, like, if the right TV executive had seen a second of the Briscoe Brothers, they probably would have had their own reality TV show. Like just the like these two professional wrestlers who are also chicken farmers, and they're just so entertaining. Like if what like if what like one of those executives like just saw like they're like we have to make a show about these guys. Like this is
Oh,
incredible.
oh God, yeah. You watch some of those vignettes and those promos that they do from the farm.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, dude, that would just fit right on a damn reality TV show.
Yeah, yeah.
Most definitely. All right. So I got some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some probably nothing to do with anything we talked about so far. So, first off, I love the stories I end up getting out of this. Craziest in match moment for you?
Craziest in match moment? Oh god. I did Gathering of the Juggalos in 2022, I believe. And that was just like a wild experience, guys. I did like a battle royale there, and I remember I was like going out. It was like freezing cold in like middle of nowhere, Ohio. It's like 2 a.m. like when we go out, and it's just like I remember like looking around. There's like this like sea of just like. So I was like Gathering of the Juggalos like one of the coolest and like weirdest like wrestling shows I've ever done, and I would love to go back. Or it's like I'm like it's 2 a.m. It's freezing cold. I mean it's this like tiny ring with like 25 people, and there's just like the sea of like like juggalos just like everywhere, and they're like just. And this is like a thing that I didn't realize until like I got there. But like even like the people they like whether it's like bands or whatever, they just like throw stuff on the stage. Like it's just like just a thing that they do. Like Sir Mix-a-Lot was playing before us, and like which is crazy to say. Like I went on after Sir Mix-a-Lot. Like Sir Mix-a-Lot like did a set, and they're just like they're loving it. We were just throwing just stuff on stage because. So we're just like we're doing this rumble, and then they're like all this trash being thrown on stage, and then like someone just start wailing on me. So I'm like, I'm getting out of here. And then like as I'm leaving, like a fan runs into the ring and like tries to get into the ring, and that's a whole thing. And like people have to like beat this fan up and like throw him out. And so I'm like, what is going on? I'm just like sitting. I was just thinking like, this is my life right now. Like, what am I doing?
Oh God, yeah.
That one, and then probably like the first time I ever got like knocked out in the ring, and that was like terrifying.
Yeah,
So that was
can
like
imagine.
seeing that like just that was like just weird and just like a weird night and everything. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. I like I said, I love getting the stories I get out of that question because like I've heard quite a bunch from an old lady stabbing some guy in the ass to original ECW Lloyd Anoa'i told me about a match with New Jack where they were told to be careful with the arena, and then they both proceed to go through a wall, and Paul Heyman's yelling at them after the match. Or had August Artois on recently, and he's gone over to Puerto Rico a lot. And
Puerto Rico as well.
He told me about one time where he wore a shirt that both in English and in Spanish said "Justice for Brody," and I'm like, when he told me that, I'm like, oh my God! Like knowing the history I do of that situation, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, it's very gutsy.
Oh yeah, hell, he told me that the promoter has called him, telling him that people have called him saying that if he ever brings back that guy, he's not making it home. And like you hear, like people might think, really, did that really happen? I'm like, you hear the stories of some of the fans in Puerto Rico. No offense to any of them, but man, I guess for a polite way to put them, passionate. Their passion for it is on a level that I don't know if I've seen pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, it's tremendous there.
All right. Next up, being the world famous CB, being, world traveled, lots of long plane rides. What is like a favorite way of yours to pass your time on those long flights?
Honestly, to get a window seat and sleep. I am a great plane sleeper, and I feel very bad for people that can't sleep on planes because I don't know what I would do if I couldn't. But like I'm pretty good at like being able to like fall. And I'm like a good window seat partner because I don't like get up to use the bathroom that often. Like if it's like a super like if it's like a within like 5 or 6 hour flight, like I'm usually good. I can just like pass out and just like be like good and like not have to interrupt anybody. But yeah, like I can just like fall asleep. Like I remember like one of the trips I did coming back to Japan. I think the flight there it was like 16 or 17. The flight back was I think like 14. And I think like I managed to get like a good 8 hours of like sleep on like one of them. Like I was just like super exhausted when the time change and everything. But yeah, I'll pass out. I have been if I can't though, I'll watch especially if it's like a Delta flight and they have like the free movies and everything. I love to put on good movies. Delta usually has a pretty good library.
I was gonna say I've been on a few, of the longer flights where they actually will have that stuff available, and
Yep. Yep.
there is usually a pretty good list.
They usually have like good like movies that like just like left theaters. I feel like.
I was gonna say, yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of those. What is like one of your favorites? One of your favorite movies?
Oh, you know what's crazy? I'm glad you asked that because I just did a flight. It was coming back from Alaska a couple of weeks ago, or whenever this airs. I guess a month or so ago. And I watched the movie Parasite for the first time, and I remember hearing about it, and I remember won like a bunch of awards like a couple of years ago, and I remember hearing a lot of praise about it, but I just never got around to watching it. And I was like, oh, let me check out Parasite, and like, wow, like that. I got to watch it the second time to fully, but after a first time viewing, as soon as it was over, I was like, that may have been my favorite movie I've ever seen, like in my entire life, like, or at least like top three. It was incredible. If you haven't seen Parasite, like, go watch it. Like, especially if you know nothing about it, like, it will take. It's not like it's like a kind of a thriller and black comedy. It's not like scary or anything. But like wherever you think it's going, it will just like pivot, and then when you think it's going that way, it'll just like it just has so many like twists and turns. Like I was like, what is happening? That was the best movie I'd seen on the plane for sure. And the worst movie I ever seen was that remake of like Fantastic Four, the one with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, okay.
I watched that like one of the flights to Japan, and I wanted my money back because I was even though it was for free because it was that terrible. Actually, funny. We were talking about Jay Briscoe. Part of Jay Briscoe's story was I want to say this is my first or second trip to Japan. I was like, I was like sitting behind Jay, like he was like in the row in front of me, and I remember like he like ordered like a glass of red wine, and he was watching the movie Pixels, like the Adam Sandler movie, and he's watching this Pixels, and he's like laughing his ass off. He's like having such a good time. He's drinking red wine, he's watching Pixels, and I remember like I was like, damn, he's like really loving this movie. And I asked him what golf was like, how was that movie? He's like, oh man, that movie. He's like, oh man, it's pretty funny. You gotta watch it. I'm like, all right. So on the flight back, I was like, I watched Pixels for the first time, and sure enough, it was really funny. I enjoyed it a lot. Jay Briscoe recommended the movie Pixels.
yeah, just memories of him. Yeah, like he was a fan of that one, huh? And not, I guess, not really thinking that the guy that looked like he did would like a silly movie like that.
He was cracking up. I was like, this movie must be like so funny. Like if he's laughing this hard, so I was like, I gotta watch it.
You know what? Hell, I might need to go back and watch it because my memories of that one not that great, but that Fantastic Four one, maybe it's a good thing that I don't remember much about it. I do remember seeing it, but you know, maybe that's just showing the lack of quality there that I have a severe lack of memory of even watching it.
Yeah, it's not great at all.
All right. Now, what would you do first thing if you had what I like to call fuck it money? Like just an abnormal amount of money that is like, you know what? I've always wanted this. I'm going to go out and get it.
My dream for like my wrestling school, the Worldwide Dojo, would be. So I went down to Mexico last year for Bandito's gym, and The way they have that set up is like my dream for like a wrestling school. So basically, I went down and lived in Mexico for a month and trained with them and wrestled on shows down there. But the way Bandito's gym kind of is set up, it's kind of set up like kind of like a Japanese dojo style. The way it's like the way the kind of the concept because Bandito spent some time over in like Dragon Gate and everything. But it's this giant facility, and they have like the wrestling ring, like training ring, like down the ground floor, and like they have classes multiple times throughout the day. They used to have like two classes, 2 or 3 classes like a day with different teachers. So people can go there and live there and train. So you can literally like live at the gym there. Like the ground floor is the ring, and they have like a full commercial gym for like non wrestlers, like a Planet Fitness basically, like downstairs. Beautiful gym and incredible. Then you go up the steps, and in the middle is there's like a living room. There's like a TV. There's a kitchen, washer and dryer. It's like showers and everything. And then on the third floor, there's like 20 apartments that people can live out and rent in. Also on the ground floor is like a barber shop and like a cafe and like it's like got like and like a merch store. There's like everything there. It's incredible. Like a whole like a facility where people can like live there full time and like train and get better. They can have a place to work out, a place to eat, a place to cook, whatever it may be. And it was Bandito wanting to get back to like the wrestling community in Mexico and like create this place that these wrestlers could go and like live and like train and have a place to stay and all that. And it was incredible. I highly recommend anyone going down to Bandito's gym, the big lucha school. It's tremendous. So that would be like my ideal goal one day is to be able to make maybe not to that scale, but some kind of facility like that where it's like a place that hey, if you want to come from out of town or like visit, they have a place to stay and they have a place to live. We can have like classes like multiple times like a week, things like that, and yeah, go from there.
Definitely sounds like a good idea, good setup there. Now, with the name of a show like I feel like I have to ask this or else I'm just gonna feel weird. Favorite drink, whether alcoholic or otherwise, because I tell everybody just because it says drinking at most does not mean that it has to be alcoholic.
For alcohol, I like a good margarita. Like a really good margarita is like ideal. In terms of soda, people always think it's weird, but I like ginger ale. Ginger ale's that's my go-to. That's my go-to drink. Either that or nice Coke. No Coke over Pepsi.
Hey, yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. A good ginger ale ain't bad. I'm a bit of a Dr. Pepper fiend myself. Like my wife likes to tell me I got a problem. I tell her as long as I got some, I don't got a problem.
Exactly.
All right. Now, last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Do your research, find a great school. Go there to watch a class. They'll let you. I think any quality wrestling school should let you check out the class, not necessarily participate, but to watch and see how they operate. Get a feel for the environment, get a feel for the vibe, watch like the students, like see how the teacher coaches someone that's like struggling through something and like how they react to them. Pick a school that has a trainer that has had some level of success in wrestling if you have the opportunity to. Or that's like, sometimes the, best trainers aren't always the most successful people, which is fine. But see who the school has produced also. And see, and like just in general, like if you're go there to see a class and you're watching a class and like a good amount of the class is like struggling to do something, it's like, and the trainer's not really able to coach them on how to do it, then that's kind of like a little bit of a red flag there, but yeah, do your research, find a good school. And then if you really want to do this, make this work, you have to be a student of the game. You have to study. You have to know your history. You have to be a pleasant person, easy to work with. Everyone loves someone that's easy to work with, and that will help you get more opportunities and jobs and get in shape as best as possible. Like you don't have to be the biggest, strongest, or the fastest, but get your conditioning on point and be in somewhat of a decent shape, and yeah, just if you want to make this work, do as good as possible. Or if you're just someone that wants to do this on the weekends, just be the best like weekend wrestler you can be. Like, but don't like half-ass anything, because again, we're protecting each other, and that's where our job is to keep each other safe.
Oh, most definitely. Hell, I bit of a half advice, half joke. I can't remember where the first place I heard this was at, but never half-ass anything, always full-ass it.
Yep, yeah. I say that quote a lot. You whole ass the whole thing.
Definitely. All right. Before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't, for some reason, have their eyes on the world famous CB, they can go ahead and get them there.
You can follow me on Twitter at Cheeseburger ROH. You can follow me on Instagram at World Famous CB. If you want to check out my wrestling school and see like clips and things from that, you can follow us at Worldwide Dojo on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well. And also check out our YouTube channel, Worldwide Wrestling Dojo. I post like training clips. I'll post like we do a YouTube show, Capture the Lightning, as well, that showcases our students. And yeah, got a lot of good stuff cooking out there.
Oh, most definitely. I'll get all of that in the description. Well, that is about all I have. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I wish you the best of luck out there with the dojo and with your upcoming trip to Europe. I look forward to hearing about that. But yeah, that is about it. Have a good one, man.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Here's my thing with the fucking button.